Hey guys, so I'm getting ready to make these patches for memory pillows that I make. I have 4 that are going to fit inside of this hoop, as you can see here. I have them color sorted, so it's going to stitch out each part of all 4 of them at a time, if that makes sense. So here would just be 1, and it's going to do the square just like an applique. So it's going to stitch out a line, I'm going to put the fabric down, it's going to stitch out another line, I'm going to cut the fabric, and then it's going to stitch out the satin stitch and then the lettering. So the way that I do a color sort, so you can see here that each line is going to stitch out separately, and I don't want that. I want them to stitch out all the same. So I come up here to utilities and I come down to color sort, and this is in the program Embroidered. Okay, I do a new view, and then when I pull down, it's going to stitch out all of the black together, all of the red together. It's going to do my tack down stitch, the fabric stitch, and then the satin stitch. I have this one all ready to go with 4 of them. I have it already saved here. I'm just going to pop in my USB. Wait for that to come up. Drag and drop. I'm going to eject. Just waiting. There it goes. Pull it out and bring it over to my machine. On here, I have to see how this is in the green. It means that it's ready to embroider this design. I don't want it to embroider this design. I want to embroider my patches. So I'm going to hit this, hit OK, come over here to this flower, come over here to the USB because that's where it is. It's this one. Okay. Back to the flower. There it is. Pull it up. And there it is. It does look a bit big. You have to center it exactly. So you can see how I'm just using these arrows to maneuver it around. And it does look a bit big. It's still showing this outline as red, even though on my computer it said it was going to fit, but I'm going to have to make it a little bit smaller or use a bigger hoop. So I will get that set up, and then I will show you guys how I hoop. I just use a tearaway stabilizer, and then I use, I believe it's a duck cloth. So this is the cloth that I'm using. I'll iron it, but it's a little bit thicker than just your typical cotton fabric. It's the one that's kind of, just when you do a search on the internet, it's recommended for patches. So, so there. So that's what I will be using, and I'll show you guys how I get that hooped up. Okay, so here I have printed out the patch design, and actually I did go ahead and make it even smaller than this, and as you can see, it does technically fit inside of this hoop, but the corners are so close to the edge that that might create some problems. So I did go ahead and shrink it down a little bit, but just for the sake of sizing, I'm gonna go ahead and use this one, and I'll still know that that's my center based off of this. And if y'all don't have a printer, I strongly suggest getting one. I did embroidery for, oh gosh, probably over 2 years without a printer, and it was just like guesswork, figuring out the sizing and if it was gonna work and the placement. But being able to have a printer, and I use Embroidered, and I'm able to print from Embroidered, and it puts a crosshair right in there with me, and I know that this is exactly the size that it's gonna be. I know it's gonna fit. Once I place it in my hoop, I can put the printout on top and I can line up that needle right with that crosshair, and I know it's gonna stitch out exactly where I want it to be. So if you don't have a printer, that is just my personal tip for you. Get a printer. It made the world of difference. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my fabric first, and I thought I had a pair of scissors handy here, but it looks like, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and just pre-cut this down to the right size. Now, also, what I normally would do, which actually I'm out of it, and I'm not sure that it's exactly necessary for these patches, because they are going to be, I'm going to embroider them, and then I'm going to sew them on. I'm not ironing them on to the pillows that I'm making. So, but I don't have any of the fusible iron-on backing that I normally would put on the back of all of my applique projects. A patch isn't technically an applique, but it's done almost exactly the same way as an applique. So usually, as good measure, I always iron on the backing, but I don't think I have enough. Oh, see, here's just a little piece of it. The heat and bond. I have enough for probably 2 patches. I need to go buy some more. I might be able to find some scraps to fill in down there, and I might still be able to do this, at least for the sake of this hooping today. But normally I just do that, and that just keeps it from fraying. I find that it just keeps the edges from fraying. After you've cut them, you get a nice clean cut. I don't necessarily use it to iron the patch onto the thing that I'm making. It's just to keep things nice and neat and clean. Okay, so I'm using a tearaway stabilizer. This is one of the original hoops that came with my embroidery machine. I've had my machine for 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. No, it's been about 2 years. Did I get it in January or December? I'm not sure. We're in December right now. It was about this time 2 years ago that I was able to purchase my 12 needle mirror embroidery machine, and I love it. I know that they've updated some things since I've bought it. I think the hoops that come with it aren't green anymore, they're a different color. Then there's just a few other really nice upgrades, but I have had mine for 2 years and I love it. So I'm going to just hoop the stabilizer. And I know that there's like gonna be a gap on either side. This stabilizer isn't quite big enough for this hoop. And I was doing sweatshirts last, so I need to tighten this up a bit. So you just use a screw, tighten it up. Just kind of pull this taut tight. And the other thing that I've done, I'm just kind of gently pulling, make sure it's nice and tight. Oops, that was a little too hard. The other thing I've done when the stabilizer doesn't quite reach all the way across is I will put a little piece of painter's tape right there just to hold the stabilizer onto the hoop. Okay, so I'll get this over on the machine and show you guys what the next step is. I will probably iron some heat and bond on there. I'm going to search and see if I can find, and iron it onto the back. I'll see if I can find enough to do the whole piece. Okay, so I have the hoop on my machine, and see here, I made this a little bit smaller, and you can see that the line going around is now green. It's not red, which means it's gonna fit. According to this machine, it says it's gonna fit. And then I can go ahead and do a trace. Okay, and then here's where my printout comes in handy. Okay, so what I do is I line it up much easier with one hand, but pulled needle 1 down. Normally I would have it on a backpack or on a sweatshirt or whatever, where I want it, and then I would be moving the arrows of the machine to get needle 1 exactly where I wanted it on here. But because this is a patch and it doesn't, as long as it fits in the hoop, it doesn't matter. I just want it centered. So I want to make sure, I mean, that's close enough. But as you can see, it should fit, and actually looks like there's a lot more room this way. So if I hit this arrow, it moves that way. For some reason, let me go, because it doesn't seem like it's centered. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it looks off-centered here. Like on the machine, it looks like it's going that way more. On the screen, it looks like it's going that way more. So if I go to change and I hit B, which is what this hoop is, it's going to kind of adjust the hoop to the middle. Sorry, it's loading. Okay, so now I know that what my machine is telling me is centered on here is right. Because sometimes, especially when the machine is off, this doesn't lock in place. So if the machine has been off and this got bumped, when you turn the machine on, sometimes it's saying it's centered when it's really not. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So now, the other thing sometimes I do is, I hit okay, I can do a thread cut, and it cuts it, and that also shows me, okay, so it's like right there. Then I just pull it down a bit. Okay, that's pretty close to centered. And again, if it was on the garment exactly where I wanted it, I would be more picky about making sure that that was exactly on the crosshair. But I'm not so picky with this. I just want to make sure that my corners aren't going to hit the corner of my hoop. And we look good. Okay, so next, I can pull this off now. I don't need this anymore. The next thing that I need to do is pick the colors. So to do that, did I do a trace already? Trace it out. It'll reset it to needle 1 if it's not already. Okay, now that I've traced it out, it's in the green embroidery mode. Now I can pick my colors. I go over here. So here's the thing I always like to point out. You can change, these are your needles. Needle 1, needle 2, needle 3, needle 4. You can change the colors on your computer to match exactly what's up here. I don't typically do that. I just go back, okay, so like I know this back here, needle 1 is red. It actually is red on my screen, okay? But number 2 is orange. It looks a little red on my camera, but that, oh, there, it looks orange. And actually it's gold, so that's not far off. Yellow, green, which is white on my machine. 5 says blue, but I have black. So as long as I know what's up here and what numbers these are, I don't necessarily worry about the colors. You can go over here and you can change all of the colors. To me, that's not that important. Okay, so needle 1 doesn't matter entirely what color it is because it's just gonna be my trace stitch. I'm gonna do white just to make sure that no threads stick out at the end and you see them and whatever. Okay, so now to make my machine stop here, because I don't want it to keep going to the next color, I want it to stop here so that I can place my fabric down. I come down here to this F, this offset, okay? Oops, it needs to be selected on that one. Okay, hit that, and then it'll say 4F. That means it's going to stop right there. The next color can be white again, same thing, okay? So it's going to trace it out first, then it's going to go around the fabric, and now I want it to stop so I can take my hoop off, cut the fabric off, and then we're gonna do the satin stitch, which is also going to be white. Let me come over here and double check. Yes, so then I have Black is my lettering, and then red are my hearts. Those are going to be the last two, just to make sure. So black is 5. And I don't need to put any stops here because I don't need them anymore. Okay, and then hearts are number 1. So that's 5 colors, and I have 5 colors selected. You hit OK. It's going to come up with this. You hit OK again, and now you're ready to begin. I did find enough pieces of scrap heat and bond to cover this entire sheet. Now what you want to make sure you do after it's cooled off is to peel off the paper backing. I may have to put my camera down. Let's see. My tripod actually broke, and I have another one ordered. It is not here yet, so I'm just winging it. So please pardon me. So you hear my machine did go ahead and stop. Okay, if I did this with 2 hands, it probably would have come off in one nice piece, but it's being stubborn. Okay, so that is all of the fabric, all of the paper backing is off. You can see now it's shiny because it has that heat and bond. Shiny side down. And you just cover all of those stitching. This is called floating for anyone who's not aware of the terminology. You'll get in these groups and they'll talk about floating and you're like, what in the heck is floating? This is floating. Okay, so I haven't hooped the fabric. I'm literally floating it on top. I'm not too worried about this going anywhere because of the heat and bond. It's kind of, it's got a little bit of grip, so it's gonna stay on here. But if I was concerned about it slipping around, you could hold it down with your finger, but that could get dangerous. I've seen people use chopsticks, which is a lot smarter. I've also just pinned it. So I will kind of feel like, well, you'll see it overlaps that stitching a bit, okay? So I'll pin it on the outer edge where I know it's not gonna get anywhere near the needle or the stitching, and I'll just put a couple of pins where I need them to hold the fabric down, and that's enough that when it's stitching, it's not a problem. Hello. Should have used the lint roller on this before I started. Anyways, so I'm not worried about going anywhere. We're gonna go ahead and let it stitch out. And it's gonna stitch out the 4 squares exactly like it did before and then stop. And then I will take it off my machine, cut the extra fabric off, put it back on my machine, and then I'll be able to hit start and it will be able to finish it. It's gonna do the satin stitch, the lettering, and the hearts without stopping after that point. And then because it's on a tearaway, after that we literally just pop them right away from that stabilizer and they're ready to sew on whatever it is that you want to sew them onto. Okay, so it has stitched out all of my squares, and let me just give a plug for these scissors because these are the scissors that came with my buy machine and they are by far my favorite. I just recently bought a new Baby Lock Allegro sewing machine because I do a lot of sewing as well as embroidery and I needed a bigger machine. That one came with a set of applique scissors and they don't hold a candle. These ones, I love these ones, and they're pretty dull actually from constant use, but I I really do like these scissors. And they're not that expensive from buy. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just cutting as close as I can to the stitch line without cutting through it. The fabric is a thicker fabric, and with that heat and bond on the back, it is thick, and my scissors are dull. But we're gonna get through it. I've done a lot of in the hoop keychains. I have a whole video that I've done in the past on in the hoop keychains. I use these scissors on that too. So they've cut through leather, they've cut through sequined fabric, as well as just lots of cotton fabrics and sweatshirt materials. So it's time for a new pair. But I also just kind of like having a pair that I'm not too worried about. I know I can use these on anything because they're already dull. I'm not worried about messing them up anymore. But they do the job. You could do this with a regular pair of scissors as well. The applique just have this curve to it, so it just helps you to get in closer. And also because it curves up, you're not going to worry about ripping whatever your garment is underneath. It has happened, I'm not gonna lie. There have been times where I'm doing an applique on a garment, on a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, and I have accidentally nicked the under fabric, especially when you're trying to get into those letters, applique letters that have like an O, you know, and you have to do the inside of the O, so you have to like puncture through the fabric without trying to go through both layers. Yeah, it's a fun time. I've also use the tip of my stitch ripper to do the inside of applique letters. That's something that you could try, because I feel like I can just catch the first couple threads of that fabric sometimes that way. Okay, so I just finished up the first that I was working on, and then the last three, these ones all said Dad, and these ones say Love Jess and Abula. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but so they stitched out great, and I just want to show you how I take them off now. It's on a tearaway, so you literally just, it's honestly one of the most satisfying things is pulling them out. And then you're gonna have some threads around, and you'll just want to take a good sharp pair of scissors and just very carefully go around and cut any of the fuzzies off. And that's it. And then the patch is ready to be sewn on your project. So it's as simple as that. So I usually just go ahead and rip them all out. And that's it. They're pretty simple. They I will say they're simple, but they take forever to stitch out just because there's so much just so much lettering. So they took a good, I didn't time it. It took a good bit. It's one of those projects that usually when I have this running on my machine is a good day for me to be multitasking and working on my sewing machine. And I was catching up on some bookkeeping and other things today, but especially when I'm doing memory pillows, normally while I'm stitching out the patches, I would be sewing the actual pillows together with the shirts and preparing them. And that's probably what I should have been doing today, but that'll be tomorrow's job. And I just want to show you, this one got a little bit wonky. My bobbin ran out, and for some reason it took a really long time to notify me. Like the machine just didn't realize, I guess, that it was out. So some of the stitching has these loops up on top. What I ended up doing was like it had like it's obviously it had like loops, and it was loose all the way up there, and it was all the way down here when it finally stopped. So I just took my stitching all the way back up here and then just re-stitched the satin stitch straight across. So these loops aren't, they're just there hanging out, but they're not doing anything. So I can just very carefully, because I don't want to cut into the satin stitch that is holding it together, I can just, and a sharper pair of scissors would be better for this, just trim it off. So yeah, so just a little bit of cleanup, but other than that, all of the rest of the patches came out absolutely beautiful, came out perfect. So I'm excited to, this is my last this is my last really big project before Christmas. We're about three weeks out from Christmas, but the last week I'm actually going to be traveling to visit family. So I tried really hard not to overload myself with work this year, because I also have a lot of personal projects that I want to do for my kids. So hopefully I'll get some videos out on those and let you guys see what I've got planned for them while they're still in school this last week. So thanks for joining me and watching how I make patches on my Buy machine.